following program is intended for mature audiences.
What do you say we have a rock and roll party?
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
The great Jay Cutler debate. I'm sure you're aware, Mike, that Jay Cutler was going to be a broadcaster, changed his mind and signed with the Dolphins for a 1-year, $10 million deal. Yesterday or today?
Yeah. Yesterday, something like that. Because Tannehill got injured for the season again.
Jeez, I know.
He didn't even
Dolphins.
He didn't even get hit. He just fell down, and that was that.
He just fell down.
Basically,
he tore his ACL last season. I think it was just a partial tear. But he was one of the guys that decided, well, I'm not going to get surgery. I'm going to, elect to do it this other way, this therapy.
How'd that work out for him?
He fell down.
It never works. It's funny how that just doesn't work.
It's almost like maybe the surgery is a surgery for a reason. Because
you can tell Ryan Tannehill, tell the Angels Garrett Richards the same thing. Man, I need Tommy John surgery. Everyone that gets this injury gets Tommy John surgery, but I don't want Tommy John surgery. I'm going to sit out the rest of the season and rehab it with therapy.
Uh-huh.
Oh, what's that? We're a month in and I can't throw anymore? I wonder why that happens.
Also,
Tannehill. Go ahead,
also,
Mike.
Just to interrupt off topic, I just want to say, Zach, I just now seeing the picture you took of the front gates to the StubHub Center.
I didn't take that, but yeah.
Oh, well, the one that you posted, yeah. StubHub's at home of the Los Angeles Chargers.
It still looks like some sort of joke, right?
Yeah, it kind of looks slapdash, like they just put it up in an afternoon.
Well, with the whole entrance, it looks like it's the entrance to a theme park or something, not a football stadium.
Yeah, it kind of does.
Anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, so Tannehill did the same thing. He opted not to have surgery last year. And starting in training camp, was it last week, I guess? He literally fell down, wasn't hit, and is out for the season.
Yeah, just ran towards the sidelines.
Yep.
He popped.
That's that.
Here the Dolphins are again.
And here's Jay Cutler, number 6 in your program, number 1 in your heart, starting for the Miami Dolphins.
Hey, I have a very soft spot in my heart for Jay Cutler because I just love how he doesn't seem to give a shit about anything. I think it's endearing.
I think it's a great move. I honestly do. Now, I could be way off. I could end up being very wrong, but I think that if they needed a quarterback, he was the perfect choice.
Well, the problem of Cutler, I think, was the guy's obviously talented, but I think the problem was he just didn't have the right attitude for Chicago.
Now, I agree. That's exactly what it was.
And Chicago being the football crazed market that it is, with all that media attention, it was probably doomed to fail anyway. But not to disparage.
Numbers wise, he was pretty successful in Chicago.
Ultimately. Oh yeah.
Yeah, but they hated him because he wasn't rah-rah, and he wasn't
the
Bears, and he didn't show enough emotion or whatever. It was funny. I was listening to the Dan Patrick podcast today, and he brought up a very good point. He said if Joe Montana hadn't won 4 Super Bowls, he'd be viewed exactly the same way Jay Cutler is. People would be saying things like, does this guy even have a pulse? Does he care about anything? But because of those 4 Super Bowls and because he was so great, they don't really worry about that. But they're very similar personalities. It's not very demonstrative, kind of laid back and cool. And Cutler has been vilified for it. And Montana, well, when you put 4 rings up, you can do whatever you want. I think it's a great move for the Dolphins. I really do. I think he's better than Tannehill.
I think it's a great move for the Dolphins. I think it's a good move for Cutler because I think the more sort of laid-back approach might fly better in Miami.
Yeah.
And not to disparage the fine people of Miami, but it doesn't seem like they're as rabid about the Dolphins as the people of Chicago are about the Bears. And so you'll probably have less media scrutiny. Like you're not going to have people who spend 45 minutes on a local sports talk radio show, going over his every mannerism on the sideline like you had in Chicago.
I agree.
So
completely.
yeah.
But Zach seems to not like it so much.
Well, is Jay Cutler a guy that, yes, he left Chicago for many a reason, but he was all set to be a broadcaster.
Yeah.
Right? He's not spending the offseason training. He's not spending the offseason looking over the playbooks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so you're going to pull this guy out of the broadcast booth and put him immediately into the starting quarterback role? Like,
yeah.
Matt Moore, who's the backup for the Dolphins, has been for a few years, he's serviceable enough. And I mean, really, if you look at the Dolphins, are they a team that's like, well, shoot, without Ryan Tannehill, there's no way that we're going to make the playoffs and challenge for a Super Bowl. And so we need to get a proven quarterback. And he was good 2 years ago under Adam Gase, who's the new head coach for the Dolphins. I would think that if I was in that position, sure, you get somebody to come in, but you don't say, oh, well, you're going to be the number one quarterback right away. Here you go. Because
I think Cutler's better than Tannehill. I know he's certainly better than Moore. And as far as all that stuff about not training and stuff, I think there's way too much emphasis put on that. And I think it gets way more credit than it deserves, because we have seen over the years people hold out in the NFL, show up on opening day and play just fine, no problem at all, including quarterbacks. I mean, Tom Brady was out now granted, Brady's a different story. He was suspended and I'm sure he practiced and stuff, but I don't think he was living and breathing football every minute while he was out for those however many weeks it was last year.
Brady was still certainly working out, and
I don't think Cutler's the kind of guy that even if he worked out, would it make much difference? I mean, he's the classic 70s fat smoking quarterback. That's what I love about him.
When's the last time he was running routes or reading these plays or breaking the huddle or doing any of this stuff?
Last year with the Bears.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about that. He's got an entire training camp to get it back together. And as far as his conditioning goes, he was never in great shape to begin with. So that's a non-issue. The main issue is basically, can he pick up the playbook and learn the stuff in the 4 weeks of preseason? And I think he's certainly capable of doing that. So I'm not concerned about it. I think that of all the people out there, well, granted, there's probably better choices if they were available, but of the people they had to work with, I think Cutler was the great choice. I really think it's going to work out well for them. Getting him out of Chicago was the best thing that could have happened to him. Like Mike said, Miami's not nearly as nutty about the Dolphins as the Chicago people are about the Bears. I think it's a good move all around. I could look like an idiot in 3 weeks. Won't be the first time, but that's where I see it right now.
Yeah, I just don't like the look of taking a guy that was all set to start calling preseason football games like this week.
Yeah,
and like if the Dolphins had signed Tony Romo, for example, like,
well, would that have been worse or different?
It would be the same thing, right?
Yeah. Well, another thing.
I think the difference is, though, that I think Tony Romo's body is falling apart at a faster rate than Jay Cutler's is.
Yeah, I go back to what I said before. Jay Cutler is not this physical specimen. He's the best way I can describe it, he's a 70s quarterback. He's a little overweight, kind of pudgy. He smokes, and I don't think you need to worry about his conditioning. And as far as the quarterbacking part of it goes, I think he'll be fine. The
other part of it is, say it doesn't work out. Say that it does go the way that it could, and he's just not ready and flames out early. And you have to go to Matt Moore. If you're Matt Moore, you're sitting there, you put in the work for an entire offseason. You've been called upon when this team's had injured quarterbacks over the last few years, which they have, and you've performed admirably or even, pretty decent in some cases. And you've spent the time with this new coach to learn his plays and get his trust. And you get usurped. Like your quarterback goes down. You think, okay, maybe this is my shot to take it over again. And they pull out a guy out of the broadcast booth to come take your spot and say he doesn't work. And it's a, well, Matt, we need you now. It's like, you need me now. What about earlier? Well, I would tell Matt Moore two things. First off, that if he was as good as he thinks he is, then they wouldn't have had the question. It would have been, we've got Matt Moore, we're fine. And the second thing I would tell him is, this is the National Football League. This is the way it works. You're getting paid a lot of money, and if you want to whine and complain because we brought in Jay Cutler, fine, but that's the way it goes.
And I think that, again, going back to Matt Moore, if they thought he was the answer, they wouldn't have brought in Cutler, because let's be honest about it. Cutler isn't exactly grabbing I'll even use Brett Favre as an example. It's not even like the Jets grabbing Brett Favre and bringing him back. This guy is not at the top of anybody's list, but apparently the Dolphins with Adam Gase saw something they liked. They think he can work out, and they didn't think Matt Moore was the answer. So that's why they went to Cutler. So that's my answer to the Matt Moore question. If they thought he was the guy, he'd be the guy. It's the old Aaron Sorkin line. If you were going to invent Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. Or something like that.
It's just a bad look to me to just have your starting quarterback go down, and then you pull a guy. You sign a guy that was for all intents and purposes wasn't preparing to play football this season.
Well,
in any case, whether it's physically or mentally, he was ready to start moving on to his post football career, and now you're in this spot.
Well, if you're asking me about the optics of it, no, it looks totally desperate on the Dolphins side of things. And with Colin Kaepernick sitting out there too. But again, I completely understand why the Miami Dolphins of all teams can't sign Colin Kaepernick. You can't bring a pro Castro guy and drop him in right in the middle of Miami, Florida. That's just not going to fly with anybody.
No.
So
ask Ozzie Gillian how that worked.
Right, exactly. So you've got the Dolphins were kind of stuck with that one. And I think setting that aside, if he weren't the pro Castro guy, probably Kaepernick gets the nod, wouldn't you think, over Cutler?
I don't know.
But that's a big deal. I mean, in Miami, they take that really, really seriously down there.
There's this whole Kaepernick thing is the way that it's
ridiculous.
Life of its own. It's kind of weird.
It's ridiculous.
He still doesn't have a team. He's still not signed yet, unless I missed something in the past 12 hours.
No, and there's a lot of teams that could use him. I mean, for Pete's sake, the Cleveland Browns are sitting here with 5 quarterbacks that aren't any better than if they had us 3 and 2 other guys there. And Kaepernick's just sitting there waiting for somebody to sign him, and they're not interested. The Ravens, I guess Flacco was hurt or something, and they were kind of interested, but the owner is hedging on it because he doesn't want to get involved with the whole distraction thing. It's okay for Ray Rice to knock a woman out in an elevator. Oh, that's okay. We can work around that. But God forbid this guy make what I think is legitimate protest before an NFL game, and we can't sign him. I don't get the whole Kaepernick thing at all. He's, again, probably not a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, but still a guy that should be on a roster somewhere, I think.
Probably.
Should he be, though? I don't think he's not that. I mean, he was playing for San Francisco at the end of it. He was proving that he just wasn't worth anybody's time.
I think the thing when it comes down to Kaepernick is that he's really a cautionary tale to everyone else, which is if you want to make a political protest, even if it is legitimate, if you want to make a stance like that, then you better damn well be a superstar.
Yeah, good enough because it's at this point it's a controversy versus talent ratio sort of thing.
I think he put up pretty good numbers with the Niners last year, though, in the games that he played. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
they did not. The 49ers did not have a good season last year.
No, but he wasn't bad, though, is what I'm saying. He had 16 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. So, no, that's not Tom Brady-esque or anything, but that was in 7 games. And he went 16 TDs, 4 interceptions, completed, where's it at? 59% of his passes, so that's not great, but still. So again, I guess you could go either way on it. I mean, I think Zach's got a good point too. If the guy, kind of like what I said about Matt Moore, if Colin Kaepernick was this good, somebody would sign him because let's be honest, this is the National Football League. If you can play, you can get a job no matter what you did beforehand.
Well, again, it's a matter, like Zach said, it's a ratio thing. Are you good? Is Colin Kaepernick good enough to make it worth it for a team to put up with the inevitable distractions that come with signing Colin Kaepernick? No. And again, that's not to say that his protest was illegitimate. It certainly was legitimate, but this is the reality of the National Football League, which is a entertainment product first and foremost, and has a very broad and a very broad mass appeal. You can't afford – a team can't afford a player to take a stand like that unless they are a superstar who's talents make it worthwhile.
I'm looking at,
and I'm not to say that Colin Kaepernick is the bottom of the trash heap when it comes to quarterbacks out there, because he's certainly not. But I mean, crap, you take a look at his first season when he took over for Alex Smith, and you chart him all the way to last season, and it has been from the first game he played to the last game he played, it has been trending downwards.
like I said, the only point I'm making is that in 7 games for the Niners last year, he put up pretty good numbers. His completion percentage wasn't where you'd want it to be, but 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, that's a pretty good ratio. But like Zach said too, the ratio is he good enough to put up with the distraction? And that I had to say no. Even with the pretty decent numbers in San Francisco, no, he's not worth the aggravation. You're probably right about that. And that's what it all comes down to, because again, if a guy like Ray Rice can get a second chance, then that's because he's talented. That, you know, like the third string guy, we see him go out and get in trouble for domestic assault. You never hear of him again. Whereas,
do you think Adrian Peterson would still be in the league if he wasn't Adrian Peterson but still beat his kid? No.
Colin Kaepernick's just enough where everybody knows who he is, and he had that one Super Bowl run. So I'm sure I did, but I'm thinking he's probably better than he actually is, or worth more than he actually is. And yeah, I think he's probably just too much of a headache now that you mention it and you put it that way. Yeah, why bother?
Yeah.
Because he's not going to be enough to take anybody to the Super Bowl. Let's be honest about it. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
And the complaints of some people are valid. Like, did you hear what Richard Sherman said?
I saw a story about it. I didn't read it.
Did Richard Sherman? Oh, this is going to be good.
His thing was like, he thinks that Kaepernick should get be on somebody's roster at some point. And he's like, hell, look at the Jets. Look at Fitzpatrick or Geno Smith. If those guys have jobs, I mean, hell, whoever is starting for the Jets this year, whoever is actually starting for the Jets is probably worse than Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Or at least that Richard Sherman thinks.
Well, see, that's kind of my point.
Wrong, but
that's my point. Is he the best quarterback available? I don't know. Is he good enough to be on a team somewhere? Yes. He's a good backup quarterback. He's a good insurance policy. I don't think he's going to save anyone's season or anything like that. But yeah, all things being equal, he should probably be on a team somewhere. But when the best you can offer is I'm a good insurance policy, I'm a good backup quarterback, well, guess what? All the other stuff, they're not going to, it's not enough. It outweighs your worth to the team. So they're not going to bother. You can find another backup quarterback. They're a dime a dozen. I'm sure that, what's his name? The guy that we said had the best gig ever. Not, I can't think of either one of them now.
What's his name?
Well, you got Charlie Whitehurst. I mean, he's probably out there somewhere.
That's what I meant. Yeah. That's who we're talking about.
I'm trying to think of the other guy, the one that got all the money from the Seahawks, and Russell Wilson took his gig.
Matt Flynn.
That's it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to bring that up because now that I'm trying to think about it, going through each team's roster kind of in my head quick, there's not really any Matt Flynns out there to be had. I guess the only guy, like the premier backup quarterback in the league, would be Garoppolo.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like the Patriots are going to get rid of him anytime soon.
No, they're not going to get rid of him, period, because I think this is Brady's last year. This is it.
Especially if that team that knocked on their door was the Dolphins. They're not going to do that.
No.
So it's, I guess, yeah, all things considered, the only guy worth any sort of discussion, and because he's a lightning rod for it, is Kaepernick. And then, sure, pull guys out of the broadcast booth because I guess there's really no other good options.
Well, and that's the thing, too. We talk about Bill Belichick. If Bill Belichick wants to trade a guy to you, you probably don't want him.
Yeah.
And if Bill Belichick won't trade Jimmy Garoppolo, he's probably pretty good. Yeah. Because if Bill Belichick didn't think Garoppolo could get the job done once Brady quits, he'd be gone for draft picks or whatever. But he's not letting him go. So that tells me Garoppolo may be as good as people think he is.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Brady and the Patriots, so Brady turned 40 this week, and it was a big deal. Everybody made a huge deal about it. The only thing that I saw that kind of struck me, which I thought was interesting, and is there was a list of all the Dolphins quarterbacks that have played for that have started a game for the Dolphins in the time that Tom Brady has been the starter for the Patriots.
Oh God!
And it's funny because we always joke about the list that the Cleveland Browns jersey had of all those years.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's just since they came back in '99. So here's a little list of since 1999 when Dan Marino retired. That was Dan Marino's last year with the Dolphins. He played 11 games in 99. Since from the year 2000 onward, these are the quarterbacks that have started games for the Miami Dolphins.
Well, wait a minute. Let me see how many of them I can name. Okay.
Well, first off, there's only 3 quarterbacks that have played a full 16 games for the Dolphins since the year 2000.
All right, I'm going to see how many of these I can do. Okay, there's Jay Feely, right?
Jay Fiedler.
Jay Fiedler.
You're mixing up Jay Fiedler and AJ Feely.
Right, okay, Jay Fiedler. And see if they took those two guys and put them together, they'd still have a second-string quarterback.
Well, they played together in 2004.
Let's see, who else was there? Okay, Tannehill.
He started.
Dante Culpepper.
16 games. Tannehill's actually started 16 games 4 years in a row from 12 to 15.
Oh,
Chad Pennington.
Another good one. Dante Culpepper.
He is the other quarterback to play all 16 games for the Dolphins. So that's everybody else's patchwork.
Culpepper.
Yep.
Well, Matt Moore is obviously in there.
Yep. Matt Moore has played a total of 15 games.
Yeah, go ahead and run out the list. I thought I could come up with more, but I can't.
All right. So we got in 2000, Jay Fiedler, Damon Heward.
Oh, yeah. Former Washington quarterback. I thought he was going to be a good player. Turned out he was a bust.
Jay Fiedler, Ray Lucas.
Okay, there's one I do not remember.
Brian Greasy.
Ah, yeah, Brian Greasy. Right.
AJ Feely.
Oh, so they both were there, Fiedler and Feely. Okay. I was all right.
Sage Rosenfels.
God, I remember him.
Gus Farratz, a.k.a. the guy that headbutted a cement wall.
That was the greatest thing ever. Injured himself after he did.
Joey Harrington.
Oh, yeah. Remember him?
Right.
Former Lions first-round pick. Yeah.
He started 11 games during the Dante Culpepper season.
Right, yeah.
Cleo Lemon.
Cleo Lemon is exactly what he sounds like. It's great.
Trent Green.
Wow. Former Rams.
Hell, I wish I had Cleo Lemon's job.
John Beck.
Okay, never heard of him.
Chad Pennington. Chad Henne.
Ah, yes. Wasn't he the one that played for the Yankees for a while, or was in the minor leagues of the Yankees? And
no, he played for Michigan.
Yeah, but who's the guy I'm thinking of who was the quarterback at Michigan and played baseball and ended up with the Cowboys? That wasn't Henne, though. That was somebody else.
No.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Oh, that's Brandon Whedon.
No, not Brandon Whedon. I'll think of it. Go ahead. Anyway. Keep going.
Tyler Thigpen.
Ah, yeah. Former Kansas City Chief.
Sure. And then Matt Moore and Ryan Tannehill. That's still, it's not the Browns.
Not quite the Browns, but it's not great either.
Yeah, it's up there in terms of just instability at quarterback.
Definitely. Well, the Dolphins have been a disaster. Well, since Marino left, basically.
Yeah. I mean, they made the playoffs a couple times. The year Chad Pennington started those 16 games, they were good. I remember.
Yeah, I remember that because that year, obviously the Pats won the AFC East that year. But like the number 2 seed in the AFC East was going to get a wild card spot that season, and it came down to the Pennington Jets and the the Pennington Dolphins and the Favre Jets.
Well, actually, I think you're thinking wrong, Mike, because that Chad Pennington Dolphins team with Tony Sperano at the helm.
Oh, did they win the division that year?
They went 11-5 and won the AFC East. Yeah.
Wow.
I believe that's the year that Brady injured his leg.
Oh, right, and they didn't make it.
That Castle season.
Well, they had to go because they went 11-5 that year, so it had to be better than that to win the division, right? Didn't the Pats go 11-5 the year that?
No, Pats won. The Pats had 10 wins that season, I think.
Oh, I thought they were 11-5. Drew Henson's the guy I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Zach, that played baseball and all that.
Let's see if I can pull up the actual season. I just have the team here.
Yeah, because that was the what's his name, the backup quarterback that. God, I can't. I'm not in football mode yet. I can't think of his name.
Anyway, I remember. I remember it came down to the last game of the season, and the Pennington Dolphins beat the Favre Jets in the final game.
The Dolphins were 11-5. The Patriots were also 11-5 that year. They had the tiebreakers, and the wild cards were the Ravens at 11-5 and the Colts at 12-4.
The Colts got a wild card at 12-4. No,
Yeah, the Chargers won the AFC West at 8-8. By the way,
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was.
I remember that because the Chargers went 8-8, won the division, beat the Denver Broncos on a tiebreaker. But the Patriots were 11-5
and stayed home. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember that because I think the Broncos started off like I think 8-0, and then they choked away the last 8 games.
Who was the there's a quarterback I'm thinking of that backed up Brady and became, what was his name that year? The 11-5 team
that was Castle.
Matt Castle, right? God, I'm like I said, I'm not in football mode. I'm still in baseball mode, so I can't think of any football players. Anyway, so we'll see. Cutler could be who knows what. I don't know. The thing that the Dolphins, the only thing the Dolphins need to do is just fix those uniforms. After that, I really don't care about them. After that.
Yeah, and the thing with the Dolphins too is like they've been we talked about it every week, however many weeks. It's them and the Buffalo Bills every damn season.
Yep.
It's like, hey, maybe they're gonna make it. Hey, they're right there. Oh wait, they lost.
Well, on the football show, it was kind of like they rotated year to year. One year we're like, I think the Bills are going to be the team that wins 9 or 10 games. The next year, I think the Dolphins are going to be the team. Last year I think we had the Bills and it was the Dolphins last year.
Yeah.
But we always missed out on it. But this year, I think that whole division is going to be terrible. I think the Patriots are going to regress a little bit, and 10-6 is still going to be enough to win that division by 3 games easily. I
think the problem with both the Bills and the Dolphins in past seasons have been like
they're no good.
Start off something like 3-1, and everyone will be like, "Oh, look at that! Like this is going to be the year," and then they'll lose like 4 of their next 5, and then it's just.
I think the Dolphins last year got off to a slow start and then got hot towards the end.
Yeah,
and when they went to the 10-6, were they 10-6 last year?
I think so.
Yeah,
something like that.
Anyway. Here we are. It's August, and we're right knee deep in it already. The National Football League.
Oh, come on! We were knee deep in it in July. We just didn't.
Well,
talk about it quite yet.
While we're talking about the NFL, you guys get any thoughts over the Hall of Fame stuff over the weekend? I heard that the speeches were interminably long.
I didn't.
They were all very long. They were extremely long. The only speech that I listened to the whole way through, and it was actually really good, was LT's, LaDainian Tomlinson's speech.
Yeah.
Was very, very good. But, I don't... The Morton Anderson thing was long. Jason Taylor was forgettable. Who spoke for a really long time? Oh, come on. It was...
Terrell Davis?
Oh, Terrell Davis. There you go. He spoke for 27 minutes.
So basically, he talked longer than his career lasted.
Come on now.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I know that you guys think I have ridiculously high Hall of Fame standards, but come on, a guy that played 5 years is a Hall of Famer.
5 years?
Huh?
Terrell Davis?
Yeah, look it up.
Pulling his
he might have played only 5 years, but he put up some monster
numbers.
Well,
okay, so there's a lot of guys that have done that over the years, though, that have had 2 or 3 really good seasons.
He played from 95 to 2001.
6 years.
7 seasons, actually.
All right, well, I'll back off a little bit then.
He had one of the few 2,000-yard seasons.
All right, if he was actually 7 seasons, then, I think you can make an argument either way, but I'll go along with it.
To your point, these are how his numbers break down in the regular season. His rookie year, 1,117 yards. Second year, 1,500 yards. Third year, 1,700 yards. Fourth year, 2,008 yards. The next season, he only played 4 games, 200 yards. The next season, 5 games, 200 yards. And then his final season, 2001, he played 8 games for 700 yards.
So he's kind of the our era's Gale Sayers, basically, then. Because Gale Sayers was another guy that had a really short career but was spectacular in that career and made the Hall of Fame. Yeah, if he played, those numbers are pretty good. I thought he only played like 5 years, had 3 good years, and then 2 bad ones, and I was like, that's not enough.
Yeah, and the Super Bowls.
And I will admit, too, that when he was healthy, he was great. There's no question about it.
Super Bowls, and didn't he get the MVP for that first Super Bowl?
Yeah, he got the MVP, the Super Bowl MVP, yeah, and then he got the regular season MVP the year after when he had the 2,000-yard season. 78 games in his career, 7,600 yards, and 60 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And I think, too, that another factor you've got to take into consideration, if I go up to most anybody that follows the NFL and say Terrell Davis, they're going to know who he is.
Yeah, well, and when it comes to running backs, I mean, unless you're LaDainian Tomlinson, unless you're Adrian Peterson, the running backs of our era here aren't all that long-lived. So 4 or 5 great seasons, that's probably enough to get you consideration.
No, I would dare say that Davis was probably now this is going to be a bit controversial, but Davis was part of that last generation where like having a very strong run game was essential.
Well, there's nothing controversial about that at all. I agree completely.
Well, I only say that because people like Adrian Peterson and Daniel Tomlinson came afterwards, and they were very talented in their own right, but it kind of feels like by the time LT and Adrian Peterson came around, it was sort of like you can build a successful offense around a running back, but you don't have to.
I don't know why. I think of LT and Davis as playing kind of not exactly in the same era, but their careers crossed, didn't they?
They were right. They came in just as Davis was winding down.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Terrell.
But I know what you're saying though, Mike. You're right. That was back in the day where running backs still went high in the first round. And that type of thing. I don't think Terrell Davis did, but I think he was like a 5th round pick, which makes it even more impressive.
At Long Beach State back when they had a football program.
But I just remember when
George actually.
I remember following it because as a Chargers fan, I followed the AFC West obviously during LT's run with the Broncos, and back then it was kind of like if you wanted to compete, you not only needed a star quarterback, but you needed a running back. Like you needed a star running back too. And these days you really only just need the quarterback. And if you have the running back, well, that's an extra.
Yeah, a lot of teams now they have 2 or 3 decent running backs and do it by committee basically now.
Mm-hmm. Terrell Davis was picked in the 6th round and entered his rookie training camp as the 6th string tailback.
Yeah. He was, I don't know if you guys remember him very well, but he was great. I mean, there's no question about it. I
remember I remember Terrell Davis very well because he would run over the Chargers twice a year.
Well, no, he was, as far as his talent goes, there's no question. He was an awesome, awesome player. I just didn't realize that, But then it's like Zach said, it's the NFL. I mean, really, you can't expect a lot of 14-year careers in the NFL.
Especially not out of a running back.
Yeah. And not in this day and age in particular, yeah. So I'm gonna retract it. I think he should be in, yes.
Yeah. Well, he only had 4 real productive seasons.
Yeah, but they were really
2 of them
good.
were Super Bowl winners. Who was a 2,000-yard rusher? I think with running backs, like I said, I think running backs you have to adjust your standards as we move along here. And the same thing with quarterbacks too, because we're going to get to a point where all these quarterbacks of this era are going to come up.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are going to have numbers that blow some of those old Hall of Famers out of the water. But is somebody like Matthew Stafford a Hall of Famer?
Oh, I would say, you know what? It's a little early to say right now, but if he stays on the current career trajectory, I think so. Yeah.
We're going to get to the point where we're going to be debating like Tony Romo Hall of Famer, and I'm gearing up right now to fight the no fight on that one because
I won't argue.
Tony Romo is.
I think Matt Stafford I would
a guy who's won no playoff games.
Yeah, but again, you see, that's the thing that drives me nuts about this. That stuff it should only help; it should never hinder. Because there's only so much one guy can do. Sure, it helps. Like it helped with Terrell Davis that he had those 2 Super Bowl runs, but that should not be the all deciding factor. Just like with quarterbacks.
But if you're a quarterback, you're the leader of the team. If you don't have a good quarterback, your team's probably not going to be good. And Matt Stafford's been a pretty good quarterback, but the teams haven't really been there.
Right.
Like when it comes to his receiving targets, sure, Calvin Johnson's probably a Hall of Famer when you have to get to that.
Why? He didn't win any playoff games and no Super Bowls.
But those sorts of things don't get thrown onto receivers.
Well, and they shouldn't be thrown onto anybody. Like I said, they should only benefit. They shouldn't hinder you. And I think Matt Stafford, I'd have to look at his numbers real quick. But yeah, if he plays 5-6 more years at the level he's playing at right now, he's a Hall of Famer, I think. Yeah. Now, we can move down the list. Tony Romo, absolutely not. You can't, this is like worse than the Kurt Warner thing. He's going to take 2 seasons and ride that to the Hall of Fame. Sorry.
Hey, say what you will about Kurt Warner. He made it to 2 Super Bowls and won one. What has Tony Romo done? And I know you don't, should help, never hinder. But in terms of hindering, I mean, God damn it. For 3 straight years, my friends and I had a Tony Romo watch party. And it never disappointed. Like, for that final game of the season, he would throw their season away, literally.
Oh, yeah.
So, no. Tony Romo, if you want to talk about hindering his team, Tony Romo, definitely.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. The NFL Hall of Fame's kind of screwed up anyway. I think it's already too easy to get in because they have a set number of players that have to go in every year. I mean, what if you come up across a year where there just aren't any guys that are eligible that are good enough to go? You still have to put, 4 guys in, I think is the minimum, right? Mm-hmm. And, I mean, that's just nonsense to me. I think it's only happened once that I can remember, but there was a year where baseball said, you know what? We don't have anybody. Sorry. We're going to do the whole thing at the hall. We'll have the whole ceremony stuff, but no one's going in. And I think a writer went in or something, but because we just didn't have the players to do it. And the NFL is just, it's too easy in some cases. And sometimes it's too hard. You get guys like an Art Monk, who was one of the best receivers I've ever seen, that sat and waited. I don't know if poor old, what's his name from the Bills, Andre Reed ever got in. And maybe he has. Did. Oh, did he finally?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what drives me nuts about the the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If anybody that watched Andre Reed play, that guy's like a no-brainer Hall of Famer. And it took him like 7 tries or whatever. I just don't get it. It's just, I don't know what it takes. Same with Art Monk.
Here's Matt Stafford's numbers, by the way, just while we're talking about it.
Okay.
He has 109 games with 30,000 yards. He has 5 consecutive seasons of over 4,000 yards. 6 consecutive seasons with over 4,000 yards, 1 5,000-yard season back in 2011. Where's his touchdowns? 187 touchdowns, 108 interceptions. And I don't have his win-loss record here, but
like I said, I today, no, but if he does that 5 or 6 more years, sure. I think he's going to put up the numbers that you'd have to take a serious look at him. He would be a Kurt Warner level Hall of Famer. I don't think he's up there with the Montanas and the Bradys and those guys and Mannings and that. But
I know you don't. I know you say you don't take these things into account, but I think part of the reason that Kurt Warner gets in is because he took those the Rams to 2 Super Bowls, won one of them, and he took the Cardinals to another.
Okay, that's all well and good.
And he probably should have won that one of the Cardinals, if we're being honest.
Well, that's all well and good. Okay, and if you're going to use that criteria, then why the hell is Jim Plunkett on the outside looking in right now?
He's not in the Hall of Fame? Jim Plunkett?
No. He's never even been seriously considered for it. No, I'm That's my point. And I think I'm going to say that their numbers are going to be very similar, Kurt Warner and Jim Plunkett. Plunkett's might even be better for that matter. But yeah, 2 Super Bowl wins, MVP in one of those games, and he's not in the Hall of Fame. Yet Kurt Warner, he went to 3 and won 1, lost 2, and he's in. And he had that stretch in the middle of his career where he was pretty bad. Plunkett, I think, put his best years towards the end of his career, but yeah, he's got 2 Super Bowl wins and he's on the outside looking in. You see, so that's the thing. And that's why the Super Bowl argument, you got to be real careful with that because it can go either way.
Warner does have more passing yards and touchdowns than
obviously, yeah, because they played in different eras, but Jim Plunkett, I don't think
he's got 25,000 passing yards. Warner's got 32. Plunkett had 164 touchdowns. Warner has 208.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you kind of extrapolate it to the offense from the 70s and 80s versus the offense of this era, it comes out about the same probably. But the thing is, I don't think Jim Plunkett's a Hall of Famer, despite those 2 Super Bowls. That's my point.
And whatever stock you put in passer rating, Jim Plunkett's a 67, Kurt Warner is 107.
Yeah.
Whatever that counts for.
Well, see, I don't think either one of them should be in the Hall of Fame. But my point is that the Super Bowl thing, if you're going to use it, and a lot of people do, you've got to look at Plunkett because he won 2 of the damn things. I think he's the only quarterback with 2 Super Bowl wins that's not in the Hall of Fame. I might be wrong about that, but I'm almost positive that's the case.
I would have to think so.
Yeah. But
Eli Manning's not in yet.
No, he'll get in.
Yeah, probably.
What if Eli gets in before Peyton?
That won't happen.
Oh, that won't happen.
That can't happen.
Peyton's first ballot.
If Peyton Manning doesn't go in the minute he's eligible, then the whole thing should just shut down. They should quit right then and there. I don't care what you feel about Peyton Manning, whether you like him or not, but if that guy's not worthy of going in on the first ballot, then no one is.
At worst, he's the second best quarterback of his generation.
Yeah.
And which you could extrapolate into being the second or third or fourth best quarterback of all time. Like
he's a guy he's a guy that has to be, when you start having the greatest of all time, he's in the conversation.
Yeah.
Now, whether you want to put him at the top or not is entirely up to you. It gets pretty subjective at that point, but I couldn't imagine. You can't make an argument to me that he shouldn't be in the conversation.
No, he obviously should be.
But that's a good thing. That's a good point about the Super Bowls, though. Peyton Manning won a second Super Bowl by basically standing around and staying out of the way. Yet all of a sudden, it cemented his legacy somehow.
And he will tell you that's basically what he did too.
Yeah. But that cemented his legacy. Like now, all of a sudden, he's not a guy with just one Super Bowl. He's got two now, and there's no more questions left.
I think the problem was with Peyton. It wasn't so much that it wasn't so much that he just won a second one by happenstance and suddenly it validated his legacy. I think a lot of it was that even though he did win that one Super Bowl for the Colts, there was this perception around him that he was a playoff choker because, well, to be perfectly honest, it happened a lot.
Yeah.
And
he was at times. I mean, there's no other way to put it.
And that second Super Bowl that he went to with the Colts, he lost to the Saints in what was seen as a pretty big upset. So, and then on top
not
of
his
that,
fault he can't catch an onside kick coming out of halftime.
I thought were the Colts the favorites in that? I thought the Saints were, because the Saints were like,
no, the Colts
were
the favorites.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason they won that game is on two plays.
Oh, the onside kick.
The onside kick, and then Reggie Wayne not running the right goddamn route on that interception late in the game.
Yeah, but
that's the whole entire football game. Those two plays.
But I think you factor in that. Then there was the Super Bowl loss to the Seahawks in what was just an ugly game. And like I think with Peyton Manning, it wasn't so much that he needed two Super Bowls to legitimize his legacy as much as it was. Yeah, he won one, but after so many close calls and missed opportunities, he kind of needed another one just to balance out both sides of the ledger.
Yeah, I can see that. You know what I'm going to say, though, about that game against the Seahawks? I completely forgotten about that with regard to Peyton Manning. I forgot he was even in that game.
It's easy to forget because it's, when a team loses 52-0, it's not any person's fault. I don't think.
But I want to say too that I don't think the Broncos were even the best team in the AFC that year, and that Seahawks team was they were like a Bears, 85 Bears, or 2000 Ravens, or a team that was just 89 49ers, just on a mission. You weren't going to beat them. They were going to win the Super Bowl that year. That was the end of it.
And how
defense was too good, and Russell Wilson had about 5 horseshoes shoved up his ass.
Oh Jesus.
So.
And then Russell Wilson threw the Super Bowl away the next year, and they still can't get over it.
Nope, and they won't ever, and that's the beauty of it.
The Seahawks and the Falcons are two teams that should probably just implode themselves.
I'm really curious to see what the Falcons do this year, because a lot of people are still talking about them as a playoff team and stuff, and I'm thinking, I'm betting they go 5-11. I don't know.
It's either going to go one of two ways. Either they're going to be a 5-11 team, or they're going to come out with a vengeance and just blitz the league.
Yeah.
They'll be a wild card team.
You think?
The Panthers will win the division, sure.
But I kind of get the feel. But the thing about it is that like the only way for that team to sort of shake off that stink is to win the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah.
Like anything. And I mean, it's kind of a high standard, like, you've got to win the whole thing. But if they don't, it's a case of, well, now you're stuck with it forever.
Has any team ever overcome something like that? I'm trying to think back, like a team.
Well, no team's blown a lead in the Super Bowl.
No,
like
but we've had teams that have blown maybe not as big of leads, but have choked as badly as that. Like
the Houston Oilers moved when they choked that playoff game away to the Bills.
Yeah.
they moved. So
well, it was 2 years later, but yeah.
Those losses are usually franchise defining.
I'm trying to think, has any team ever, I mean, and again, you've had teams that like the Red Sox who kicked it away in 86 and all that, but you can't use that as a comparison because it's so far apart. I'm talking about a team that will say within 5 years of just a soul-crushing loss like that came back to do anything. I can't think of one.
Soul-crushing, no. I mean, there's teams that have lost, hell, you look at in the NHL, you had the Penguins and Red Wings play each other 2 years in a row, both 7-game series.
Yeah, but that's different. I'm talking like
there's no soul-crushing killer like that I can think of right off the top of my head. No.
That where they came back and actually turned it around.
No, not that I can think of.
Maybe.
No, I mean, the Maple Leafs in the NHL, when they blew that Game 7 against Boston, the next season, they started off the next season pretty good, but then by January, it all fell apart, and then they
I guess
the franchise.
I don't even know if you can really use it as a comparison. The Cavs losing to the Warriors the year before they won the title.
Well, yeah, but that wasn't a choke job, though.
No, it wasn't. That's what I'm thinking. I can't think of a.
You could say the Warriors last year, they choked away a 3-1 lead and won this year.
Yeah, that's true.
But they cheated by basically buying up the NBA West. So
I don't know if you can count anything in the NBA as at least in the current NBA as that.
I'm just saying, I'm sure the Falcons would be fine this season if they went out and just bought up everybody. Then they'd be fine. But in terms of teams that didn't try to game the system.
I mean, the Broncos did come back 2 years after that Seahawks loss to win.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the same.
But that game was over from the opening snap. That wasn't a where you had it won and gave it away type of thing.
Speaking of the Broncos, though, the season before they won their first Super Bowl, didn't they lose in the playoffs to the Jaguars in a huge upset?
They lost to the Jaguars in 96, I think.
Yeah, and then 97, the next year, they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, right, yeah. I don't know. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what the Falcons do this year. I think they're going to be terrible. I hope not. I hope they're good, but I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to be god awful. I think 5-11 probably. And I tell you another team, and I said this on the boards, the Cowboys, forget it. Don't even expect what you saw. 7-9 at best for that team this year. They are going to. Wait and see.
I do not think so. Greg.
Wait and see. No.
You're not feeling Dak Prescott?
I think he's going to be fine, but they are going to play a first place schedule this year. They're not going to be sneaking up on anybody this year. It's going to be a whole different thing this year.
I don't know about 7-9. I mean, they're not going to do what they did last year, but I don't know about 7-9.
Well, okay, let's say you knock them down to 10-6. 3 games go the other direction.
I win that division. I don't know what you.
I like the Eagles. I like the Eagles a lot in that division this year. I don't know why. I just do.
Exactly. I don't know why either.
You're talking to me. We're barely out of July here. Ask me again in 3 weeks. I'll have a completely different opinion on everything.
This is Kirk Cousins' time to shine.
This is training camp Greg talking right now. I know nothing about anything at this point.
No, this is not as good as the conversations that we'll be having after week 1 when we overreact to everything.
In 3 weeks, I'll be back on my beloved Tampa Bay Buccaneers for another year.
You're already on your irrational confidence Titans.
Absolutely, man.
You're back on the Titans?
I'm back on them again. Yeah, I can't quit them. What am I supposed to do? I can't quit them.
Greg has a few teams that he just can't quit. The Buccaneers, Titans, the Vikings.
Titans. No, I'm off the Vikings. That last one. Now. Yeah, I'm still on my Titans. I'm not so big on the Bucs this year. I think the Bucs will be pretty good this year, but I'm an idiot when it comes to those Titans.
I get when you have the press conference in Vegas because that's where the fight is or whatever.
Right.
But they had one in LA. They had one in Vegas. They had one in New York, Montreal, and London.
Why Montreal and London?
Because they're trying to advertise it around the world.
Okay.
McGregor's the MMA guy, right?
Yeah.
He's going to get his ass kicked.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like I was telling Mike, he's not going to get his ass kicked. He's just not going to be able to punch Mayweather. Mayweather's just going to dodge everything he throws at him, get enough punches in to win. It'll be just like the dumb Pacquiao fight.
Yeah, because all Mayweather's got to do is just not let him get a hold of him, and he'll be fine. MMA fights are 3 rounds?
Yeah.
If Mayweather can get him to a fourth round, forget it. McGregor's going to run out of gas, and that'll be it.
I'm pretty sure Mayweather's got to be one of the best, if not the best, defensive boxers of all time.
I'm inclined to agree. I don't know, but it sounds right.
To ask people to pay $100 for it is just like...
There's why they're doing all the press conferences to hype it up, to get people to pay that price.
They're not selling enough tickets, supposedly. Like, the actual building might not be full when they box.
I want to say that it's going to bomb on pay-per-view because, like Zach said, people should have been burnt by the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, but I know people in Tampa who have been like, oh, yeah, we're going to order the fight.
It's got like a train wreck quality to it now.
I don't have to pay $100 to see the train wreck, though.
No, I won't. I wouldn't.
There's only two ways that I'll consider watching it, is if I can find it for free online, which I'm sure you can.
Oh, yeah.
Or they're in some places they're playing it on movie theater screens. If it's the price of a movie, $15 at the most or whatever, maybe.
That's generally how I watched WWE pay-per-views before they did the network, because the movie theater in Kitchener, they would show WWE pay-per-views for like the price of a movie ticket, which is much more palatable than like the $60 you'd be paying just on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's the way they used to do all the big fights back in when I was a kid, was the closed circuit, they called it back then.
Yeah.
That was when boxing was still one of the big sports, and not anymore. But I don't know. I just think these two have acted like complete idiots through the entire thing.
They're both assholes.
Yeah.
And, you know, one's a racist and one's a woman beater. So, like, what do you want, really?
Who are you rooting for? Are you like, yeah, you can't go in rooting for someone. You just kind of have to, I guess, pay for the thing and hope that you get a shit show to entertain you.
You hope that they beat each other senseless, right? I like the idea. I think it's a cool thing. Like, okay, let's see what an MMA fighter can do against a boxer. But when you think it through, if he can't get a hold of Mayweather and hang on to him, there's no chance. He's like Zach said, he'll never get a punch in. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
An MMA guy is not going to get a shot at on a boxer unless it's the luckiest shot you've ever seen in your life. It's going to be boring as hell is probably what it's going to be.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Do you guys want to talk about my Cleveland Cavaliers and their new uniforms?
You mean the land?
We've seen a lot of cool stuff over the years, but this might be the best yet. These uniforms have hidden messages on them.
Oh, yeah, underneath the flaps.
Yes, underneath the flaps, yeah.
It's just so ridiculous. Okay, we've talked many a time about the hanger effect in the NHL and how that's stupid, right? Well, what about the
secret compartment effect?
The short flap effect.
Oh, this is the dumbest bullcrap.
Do you see this?
One for all, yeah, all for one.
It's on the flap on the new Nike NBA shorts. There are these little triangle cutouts on the sides of each short leg for aerodynamics or some nonsense. But they're not just like little notches. Apparently, it's a flap of fabric folded over. And
which
on
seems
the
like it would
Cleveland,
be more cumbersome, but whatever.
And so on the Cleveland jersey, if you pull up the flap in small type, you see all for one and one for all on each.
This is just the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
You don't like the secret compartment message effect?
What? This is like decoder ring stupid.
I mean, okay, beyond the little flap, the rest of the jersey, it looks fine. It looks nice. Whatever.
I have my gripes with the jersey.
Yeah, there's things to be had, but
yeah, we'll get to those in a minute.
What are these for? Who sees them?
That's the thing. You have to have the secret code.
Here's the thing. Who sees them? And two, if you bought the jersey and knew about them, what are you going to do? Start showing it off like, hey, check out this on my hidden jersey.
It's not even the jersey. If you own these, it's on the shorts.
That's a great way to pick up chicks. Come on.
It's the little
lift the flap and see what you see.
The same motto again is on the actual jersey above the jock tag. So if you have the jersey, yes, it'll be on there, but it'll be
not in a secret compartment though.
No,
yeah, it'll be secret.
So if you go out and buy the shorts, then you can get the.
Do they sell the shorts?
Yeah, I own Laker shorts.
Okay, so you go and buy these shorts. Then what are you going to do? Like, hey, come over here.
Come here, baby. Take a look at this. Lift the flap and see what you see.
Anyone who attempts to show this off is going to look like an idiot.
You're going to get arrested.
The best part, too, is where with it having the close-up on the shorts there, you also get to see a little bit more of the construction of the actual jerseys themselves. So, Mike, or Greg, I'm sure this is on your Blue Jackets jersey, but anybody that's had an NHL replica jersey over the last few years, when you have a shoulder patch, it's basically a screen printed vinyl patch.
Yeah,
it's plastic that's that they have fake sewn on,
tacked on, I think is what they call it.
But still, it's just a plastic patch with like the logo printed on it.
It's not embroidered or anything. No.
Yeah. Now these patches look to be sewn on the shorts. But as far as I can tell, they look to be the same idea, where it's like so it's supposed to be super light, so it's just a thin plastic.
Those look exactly like the alternate logos you see on NHL sweaters these days. It used to be that even if you bought like a replica of something, like an NHL replica or even an NBA or Major League Baseball replica, like, yeah, you weren't getting an exact sort of product that was worn on the field of play, but it still felt like you were getting something of quality. And now it just seems like even the authentics in the NBA now are going to have like these plastic screened on.
Good baseball jerseys, and I think football jerseys too. It depended on the level of what you paid for as to what you got. Like if you just bought the basic replica, you got no patches. I know in baseball you didn't.
Yeah.
And then if you moved up, you got the cheap glued-on patch. And as you went up the ladder to an authentic, then you got the real thing. Well, anyway, what do you think about the actual look of the uniforms?
The whites are fine. I don't like particularly having Cavs instead of Cavaliers.
I would have preferred Cavaliers myself.
And the clee on the belt buckle, as it were, for the shorts, I don't like that either.
It should say land.
I was just going to say that exact same thing.
And I'm not a big fan of these fonts. They're really sharp and kind of jagged, and don't really care for the font choices on the numbers or the letters.
The numbers are bad.
Angular and sharp.
I don't like the number font. I don't like the home uniform, or the white one, I guess. Excuse me. I don't know what designation that one has.
That's the association edition.
Anyway, that one's okay. The dark colored uniform, the wine colored one, they had to find a way to get that stupid navy blue in there somehow, didn't they?
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me about it, because
which makes even less sense, because didn't they just make a big deal about making black official with their latest logo revamp?
Yeah. Well, you know the alternate jersey is going to be black.
Probably.
Or what one would that one be? The player or the community jersey? Which one do you think will be black?
I'm going to say the player.
Yeah, and then the community will be the throwback or the Cav Fanatic jerseys that they make.
But yeah, these they're not terrible, but I think the prior set was much, much better. And they weren't great either. I
don't, like you said, the navy blue only bothers me, but only like if it was just the trim on the jersey itself, where it's on the shoulders and whatever, fine. Yeah. But the navy blue numbers on the wine red jersey,
it doesn't work.
It looks bad.
I think so too. I don't like it. It's
really bad.
The white,
especially when you look at the home, and the Cavs is the same color as the number.
Yeah.
And on the road, the Cleveland is gold, but the numbers are blue.
Yeah, they just had to shoe in that stupid navy blue for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't understand it. They used navy blue one time, and I thought it looked good. It was back LeBron's first go around with them. They had an alternate blue jersey with the old LeBron, and that looked pretty good. And ever since then, they've tried to find a way to shove that shit in there, like the Cavs Fanatic jersey, I think that was called last year, the last few years. The navy blue one with the basically it had just Cavs across the front, and it was too big and anything anyway. But this is just, I mean, these aren't terrible, but wow, I think they're a big downgrade from what they were wearing before.
This looks like a template. This doesn't look like it's some unique design that speaks to the Cavaliers. If you took all the logos off of this, I would say, oh, are these Nike's new workout shorts they're putting out? Because otherwise, like if it wasn't for the logos, what makes this specific to the Cavaliers or a basketball. They're just design elements. They're not anything special to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
They've got secret compartments on them, so you can't beat that. And on that note, we are going to call it a night. You guys know the routine. Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube, and you can find us on Facebook. We will see you next week.
Adios.
# form the future.